Hello everyone, thanks for dropping by. In case you didn't know, that's Noomi Rapace on the screen. Like Rebecca, she's also Swedish. And like Rebecca, she's got a moody look. I've seen that kind of face before in my adolescence and teenage years from girls and young women that says, go away, I don't want to know you. So, would I go with her? Nope. She's 45 now. She's a divorcee with an 18-year-old son. Her husband was a lot taller than her, and she goes for young guys now because that's her current boyfriend. She's 5'4", meaning she's 2 inches shorter than me, but if you go across there, she comes up to the bridge of top of his nose, so he's about 5'10". So she's 2 inches shorter than me, but he's about 4 inches taller than me, and he's about 8 inches taller than her. And of course, as you can see, he's a lot younger than me, and he's also a musician, so good luck to them, but I wouldn't go with her at all. She's not really my type, and that look, it just puts me off. Anyway, enough about Noomi. As you know, there's a large number of women in colleges in America than guys. In fact, women now vastly outnumber guys in American colleges. Now that's going to have a knock-on effect in more ways than one. I've been having a look around and I found this. This is Material Blessing. This was done on October 6th last year. It says nearly 60% of all college students today are women. That's an all-time high. US colleges and universities have lost 1.5 million students in the past several years, men accounting for 71% of that loss. Now, it says in the 50s, men outnumbered women in American colleges 2-1. In the 1990s, when third wave feminism kicked off, the ratio was 1-1, and today there's 4-6, with fewer men than women attending colleges. Now, this is a long piece. I'm not going to go through it all, but there's a few interesting things in it. It says, the problem is the way we treat our boys in K-12, wherever that is in America. They turn away from school because of the negative messages they get at school. Behavior is rewarded for boys and doesn't fit well with good student behavior. And then we have the graph of 18 to 24-year-old Americans enrolled in higher education. You can see Asians, the African Americans, Hispanic, and whites. There's more girls in each of the racial categories than there is guys. It says, other reasons I come across research in this article include men can make more money without a college degree than women can. So women need college more. Higher rates of alcohol, drug use, gangs, and prison for boys negate college as a viable option. Colleges are usually left-leaning, which they are in America, so right-leaning students increasingly don't feel comfortable there, and more men than women lean to the right. George Orwell's book, 1984, described that. Men join the military more than women. A man will sometimes have to provide for wife and children before he finishes college. That's if he's daft enough to get married before he starts college. And this is the interesting thing. Man flight. As you know, in suburbs of America, white flight is a term that describes how white people move out of neighborhoods when colored people move in, because they don't want to live next door to them. White flight is especially common when minority populations become the majority. Now there's another thing called male flight. The Male flight describes a similar phenomenon when large numbers of women enter a profession, group, hobby or industry, or clubs, men-only spaces. The men leave. That industry is then devalued. And then they have an example for veterinary in America. In '69, all veterinary students were male, 89%. 97, the enrollment equivalent to female was half of vets were 50%. 2009, enrollment in veterinary schools had plummeted to 22.4%. Now you look at 1948, every one of those is a guy, and every one of those is white. Apparently, black Americans don't particularly want to become vets. And then the research shows that reason fewer men enroll in veterinary school boils down to one factor: the number of women in the classroom. And then for every one increase in the proportion of women in the student body, 1.7 fewer men applied. More women apply for a greater deterrent than $1,000 of extra tuition. And there we have a modern classroom. They pick out the guys. That could be one there, but as you can see, it's predominantly women in the classroom. Now, biology, most STEM professions remain male-dominated, because STEM is mostly a male thing. 10 years ago, biology be 50-50 split. By 2022, 62% of biology majors were women. Biology is often considered the easiest of the STEM majors. Women can't go into applied physics or pure mathematics or anything like that, because some can. There's a lot of clever women, but majority of them don't want to do that kind of thing. Now, interior design. Many universities had interior design programs until women began to enter the design space, at which point it was relegated to a mere hobby. Since the influence of women in interior design programs have been pulled from almost all universities. And then yada 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 yada. A discrimination of masculine norms. Disturbingly, many men point to women outnumbering men in college enrollment as evidence that feminism is ruining the world and unfairly penalizing men. At least that's a tacit nod to MGTOW. Discrimination against men. Men are not structurally or legally prohibited from attending college as women were decades ago. Men are choosing not to go to college. And then we have this, Chris Ben, because the concept of school is feminine. In Spanish, school is escuela, ending in a, which is a feminine. Think about what you do in school. You sit down, accept that you don't know shit, and you accept that your teacher is right and you have to shut up and listen. Obedience is what school requires. That is a feminine trait. Or a masculine trait is standing in the classroom saying, fuck this shit, I'm going to do it my way, you're wrong, I'm right, I'm not going to listen to you. Not exactly how I experienced school, but there you go. School is now feminine, college is feminine, and rule number one, if you want to safely navigate this world as a man, avoid the feminine. As I've mentioned on previous videos, one wrong word saying he sexually abused me and the guy's kicked out of college, even if she was lying her head off to cover up a drunken night where she feels guilty about it. And then why would you rather look at anything else before looking at traditional masculinity? And then more yada yada yada. Some of these articles go on too long, but anyway, that's matriarchal blessing. To support that, I found this, the Metro, Why Are Men Failing Behind College Enrollment Completion. This was done on May the 12th this year. Now, I'm not going to go through it, but this bit is the most interesting thing. There are 2.4 million more women than men in undergraduate programs in US campuses last year. Additionally, more women have college degrees today than men of the same age. Now, if you take a step back and look at that 2.4 million figure, that's 2.4 million single women who will not date down. They want somebody just as educated as them and earning a high figure, but there's 2.4 million guys who say, F this shit, I'm going MGTOW, I'm not bothering, these women don't want to even know me, so sod it. So every year there's 2.4 million more single women in America than there is single guys. That is, the 2.4 million American women are all complaining on TikTok because they can't find a guy to date because the guys are just not turning up at places where they can meet guys. And we had an example. Antonio Rivers, 19-year-old American from a place called Southfield, whatever state that's in, graduated from high school. He enrolled in a vocational training program instead of college. And that's it. Now, to support that, I found this, a Harvard magazine, Why Men Falling Behind in Education, Employment and Health. It's another long article, but it mostly revolves around this lad. Where is it? Bloody hell. Cato. Grown up in a small town in Hillsborough, North Carolina. He was outside messing around building stuff, climbing trees. In other words, just being a lad. He didn't want to sit in a classroom because he found his mind wandering from an early age. My mind used to wander sat in a class at school. And he thought about going to college, but his grades weren't good enough. But there's a place in America called ADTC, a school in Ohio, that trains people in skilled trades. And it just goes about him. He works as a HVAC technician for more than a year, and he makes $22 an hour. Don't know if that's a good wage or not. More than he's ever made. He has benefits such as paid time off, and his co-workers and clients treat him with respect, etc., and he likes the job. Now, in 1972, the year title was passed to promote gender equality in higher education. Men earned 56.4% of all bachelor degrees, while women earned 43.6%. A 13-point gap. By 2019, there was a 15-point difference in the other direction. So women have taken over college. And then we have more yada yada, better rates. Men's wages fallen while women's wages have risen. Another reason, I'm not dating down because he earns less than me. And yak yak yak. And we go on about all this, that and the other. For black boys, race compounds economic disadvantages, while black and white girls from similar economic backgrounds achieve comparable income as adults. Black boys earn far less than their white counterparts. But if the black guy has got just as good as qualifications as the white guy and just as skilled, then that wouldn't happen. Because this seems a little bit of race baiting to me. But anyway, on and on and on. I'll naturally put all these links below, that I usually do. So, Harvard is getting worried that there's more women going into colleges than guys. But the trade schools are on an upswing in America. But this article, get rid of them too, is mostly about her, a young Bangladeshi immigrant to America. Not about guys. There's a few token mentions about guys, but it's mostly about her. And the same with this article. Gen Z workers increasingly point out of college and onto trades there are about 2 million fewer students, say the experts. This one was done on April 24th this year. And this doesn't concentrate more on women, but it does mention that women are also going into trade schools. There are about 2 million fewer students in a traditional 4-year university now than in 2011. Senior economist at payroll benefits platform Gusto. Many young people are entering trade skills like construction, plumbing, electrical engineering and automotive repair. Most of them, I imagine, would be guys. Gen Z make up 80% of the workforce, but 18 to 25-year-olds made up nearly 25% of new hires in skilled trade industries. I'm not going to college to stop my business and pay for college. Morgan Bradbury, 21. He's tried welding at high school, but she loved it. In other words, that's her, and she's going into a man's trade. But, she's got a job at military and information security company BAE. That used to be British Aerospace. And even contemplating a course with a starting salary of $57,000 per year. She's now a second-class welder in US warships in Norfolk and Virginia. But I've seen articles and news articles on the TV that the ship welding is becoming automated. Instead of having, say, a dozen welders welding the naval ships, they have a dozen auto welders, robots doing it. So she might be a second-class welder, but will she continue to be a welder working, or will she be replaced by a robot automation? That's something that's not really ever been touched. But anyway, another lad, Chase Gallagher, 24, is a landscaper. When he was just 12 or 13, he says, he registered landscape. And that's the lad. And yada yada yada. Now this is another thing which shows the difference in trade skills to college and more lads going into it. College doesn't carry the same return of investment it once did. 70% of teens say their parents support them going to trade school or getting an apprenticeship. So obviously the mountain of debt coming out of college is filtering all across America, and parents don't want the children lumped with a debt after they come out with a piece of paper. Now the only thing it's interested in this is this. Resume Gene has found in recent analysis several jobs that often don't require a 4-year degree but offer a 6-figure salaries. Bear that in mind. Below are the top 10 highest paying jobs that often don't require a degree as well as their respective median annual salaries. The human resources manager, that's no doubt a woman. Sales manager, that could be another woman. Computer network architect could be a guy. General operations manager, it's a guy. Information security analyst, another guy. Sales engineer, a guy. Health services manager, that could be a woman. Art director, that could be either. Construction manager, that's usually a guy. Now if you drop down, the elevator and escalator installers are taking home over $100,000 a year on average, and these jobs require just a high school diploma. Now these other jobs with a 6-figure salary: aircraft mechanics, plumbers, pipe fitters, steam fitters, construction manager as before, industry electricians, engineering technicians. Now you notice on the TikTok videos and other YouTube channels about MGTOW, it's always a 6-figure salary. Well, all those are 6-figure salaries, but no college education. So with a woman that's gone to college with a massive amount of debt, is she going to go with any of those sorts of jobs, even though he's earning six-figure salaries? I should say she's only going to go so he can pay off her debt, and then she leaves him for a guy with a seven-figure salary or a higher six-figure salary, and she monkey branches up the social pecking order. That's something that all these guys that are in these trade schools have to bear in mind. Now, it says the good news that his demanded job will continue to grow, and the aging workforce in trade and a surge of demand to meet infrastructure needs. So single guys who don't want to go to college, if they got their heads together, they can go into these trades and they can earn quite a good living, but they have to be aware of women that could take advantage of them. Final thing, I found this: 1 in 3 Americans recommend trade schools over college for high school graduation. The largest number of high school seniors in U.S. history prepares to graduate. 33% of U.S. adults advise graduating high school seniors to attend vocational or trade school. So 33% of Americans are not going to go into college. But that's going to have a knock-on effect on the colleges across America. And it says 28% would encourage students to attend a 4-year college or university. That could be liberal-minded parents. It also depends on what degree they're going to go for. 13% would advise them to enter the workforce. That's just to go and get a job, any job, just to get them going. And 11% would tell students to enter an apprenticeship, but apprenticeships are somewhat age limited. In other words, if he's a 26-year-old, he couldn't really get an apprenticeship instead, if he was 19 years old, he probably could. And that is that small article. To finish it off, over here in Britain, this is The Guardian, this is over a years old. Gen Z students chose a trade over college that shows they're smart, but once again, it shows you're a woman, a young girl doing it, and not a young lad. The Guardian is a left-leaning paper, so I expect this will be a female-friendly slant towards trade schools and not a male slant towards trade schools. But, where is it? That one. No, it's not that one, you daft bugger. Dropping back to that. 2.4 million women are in college. 2.4 million American women are getting into debt. 2.4 million American women, once they leave college, they don't want to get into with a plumber, even though he's earning a six-figure salary. And 2.4 million American men are not going to be dating the 2.4 million American women, so there's going to be less marriages, less children being born, and even more trouble for the American economy. And it all boils down to, where is the other one? Male flight describes a similar phenomenon where large numbers of females enter a profession, group, hobby or industry, and the men leave. That industry is then devalued. And then we had the example with the interior design. Used to be a male thing, and now it's a female thing, and it's dropped down, and no colleges are offering interior design courses. So we're still in the feminist mindset and the MGTOW mindset, and this is the result: 2.4 million more American women are going to be single and childless and complaining on TikTok that the men don't want to know them. I think I'm on a 10 minute, 15 minutes now, maybe even 20, so I'll have to wrap it up on that. Sorry it's a bit iffy, but there's not all that much happening in the economy with the MGTOW slant that I could find over the weekend. But anyway, you know the routine, people. Like, dislike, comment, subscribe. It's completely up to you. So until next Monday, I'll try and find something more relevant to MGTOW. But for now, that's it for this one. Bye bye.